Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Feliciano Live. My name is Louis Biondolillo, and I'll be speaking with Dr. Deniz Appelbaum.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good, and you?
Great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about why aren't more businesses adopting blockchain technology. So I just want to remind you, if this is your first time watching a Feliciano Live, you're more than welcome to have any comments below. This way, if you comment below, we can answer some of those questions right here because we are live.
Thank you.
People are watching us, and are you ready to get going? Are you excited?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right.
So this is a topic that I've been doing research with various colleagues in this university and also in other universities, and various components and issues about why businesses are not adopting blockchain as of yet on a broad-scale basis. But I first want to talk about what blockchain is, just to remind our audience. Blockchain basically is a digital consecutive recording of any virtual or physical transaction, whether it be a currency transaction, such as the Bitcoin blockchain, or it could be an asset transaction. So I want to validate that my art picture is actually genuine, or it could be a transaction, occurrence, or event. So I have Walmart. I'm Walmart, and I have lettuce that I'm validating the blockchain, and I move it from Mexico to New Mexico. These are all blockchain transactions. And what is unique about it is that the transaction or the event itself is recorded as a block.
Okay.
And the block is consecutively linked to the previous block. And the block information contains that link to that previous block or event, contains a timestamp and other attributes. And this is all cryptographically hashed. And this cryptography allows it to be immutable or unchangeable, which is really good in terms of audit perspective. So as an auditor, I have a perfect audit trail. As a company that wants to show provenance of gems or produce or fish, these are all use cases right now in business, I can prove that this actually came from here and not there. The problem with blockchain, and it's becoming more of an issue right now, is the fact that it requires mining. So miners are independent validators of the process, and they basically use their own computers and software to validate transactions. And when it first started in 2009, it was a very simple and low-cost process. Now with the fact that blockchains are very long, particularly in Bitcoin, it could take up to 10 minutes to validate a transaction.
Oh, wow.
And actually, in the Bitcoin blockchain, only 10 transactions would be co-occurring at one time.
Okay.
And to give you a perspective on this, Alibaba can conduct 350,000 transactions at one time.
Oh, wow.
So blockchain has yet to be able to scale up to a broad use for that, given the way that it validates.
So I know that a big issue with blockchain that some people are having is they're concerned with the security of blockchain.
Yes.
So could you speak a little bit about, is it secure? What kind of things do we have to look out for?
Okay, so the blockchain itself has not been hacked because of the complexity of the hashing. If you can imagine that you have 10 years, in some cases, 10 years of history on a block, trying to undo that hash and break into it is going to take huge computer power. However, all transactions, whether they be assets or currencies or just physical whatever, they require a wallet and currency or a token. And this is where the problem comes because most people do not do good housekeeping regarding their wallet. So when you first open a wallet, they'll tell you, do not store the password on your computer. Write it down on a piece of paper and store it in a vault away from your computer. But then I always show my students a cartoon where someone's getting bludgeoned by a sledgehammer and being forced to give up their password.
Right.
So this is what's happened. So many wallets are hacked. This is where the problem has occurred. So, but I think eventually someone will have a cost-benefit analysis or a cost-benefit to decide to hack the blockchain.
So it's possible in the future, but as of now, we haven't seen any
No,
current
yeah,
issues.
no, not yet. But I want to point out, circling back to the mining process, right now the mining has become so complex and so power-driven that so the miners are rewarded with blockchain, bitcoins, or other currencies when they do the transaction, when they validate the transaction. The mining is concentrated now in 6 mining pools, which they conduct maybe 80% of all validation processes, and 75% of those are in China. And so I don't know that businesses want to have their processes validated by miners that reside in China.
Right, okay, so that's
given the current political environment.
So for those of you who are just joining in, again, you're watching our third Feliciano Live. Our third Feliciano Live, we're on Instagram Live, later it'll be on Facebook, hopefully. and you guys can check that out on replay. But if you're just joining us for the first time or joining us back this week, just a reminder, you can comment below, and we can answer any of
Right.
your questions right here, because we have some questions for you guys that we can answer. But if you guys have any specific questions, by all means, please comment below, and we'll be able to answer that.
Thank you. Another point I want to bring out is that, the idea is that all blockchains reside mostly on a third-party platform that manages all the network nodes and the participants and allows it to be decentralized, distributed ledger. Now, the idea of decentralization is that it creates a democratic currency environment. So, the idea behind blockchain is that perhaps people don't need to have bank accounts. So you look at third world countries where individuals can be on their phone and bank using the Bitcoin blockchain and not really have to have a bank account. However, what's happened over time is that most of the wealth, if you look at the Gini coefficient of inequality, so I'll give you an idea, perspective, North Korea has a Gini coefficient of 86, where 0 is total equality, 1 is total inequality. Bitcoin's a little worse, it's 88. So most of the wealth in Bitcoin, digital currencies, is concentrated in the hands of a few.
All right, well, thank you for that. So just a question, if something was to ever happen with blockchain and it was to go bad, who's to blame for that?
Well, right now, there's no legal protection with Bitcoin blockchains or any kind of blockchain transactions. So the FDIC does not guarantee you any of your losses. So right now, if you take responsibility for your wallet, for example, but even if something happens on the exchange, there's no guarantee on any regulatory level for any kind of compensation if you lose your money or if it's stolen.
And that's a big deal, because if you were just to put money into a bank and
Right.
money gets lost, the FDIC gives you your money
Right,
back.
exactly.
Oh, so
Or credit cards, for example, credit cards. So if someone steals your credit card, they honor they give you back the amount that you owe, right? If it's
Right.
stolen. This does not occur with blockchain and Bitcoins.
Okay.
And also another concern, a major one for businesses, given that most businesses are risk adverse, is that there are no regulations about blockchain Bitcoin. So only regulation out there is from the IRS in 2014, where they regard all blockchain Bitcoin transactions or all blockchain transactions as property. But even they have trouble enforcing this, so they forced Coinbase, one of the exchanges, to court, forcing them to release identities of the individuals who transact with blockchain. So this is the other problem, is that you don't know the identities of who you're dealing with. You just have a numeric identifier. So the IRS had to force them to court to release the identities of these individuals.
Okay. And may I ask a follow-up on that? Before we actually have a question
Okay.
from the audience, but let me ask one follow-up on
Okay.
that. Why do you think that there's no regulations? Is it because it's too soon, or because why?
I think it's a combination of things. So the problem is that a blockchain transaction at one point could be a currency, or it could be a security at one point, or it could be a property. And so the problem is, where do you identify what it is and who takes jurisdiction? And I see the same thing with the drone space, for example, where no one's really taken ownership of the problem. So the SEC has one position. They say it's a security if it follows the Howey rule. And in my opinion, because of the mining process, most of the transactions then are actually securities.
Okay.
Because you're relying on the validation through a mine or efforts of another person to
Right.
bring the value to that transaction, which means inherently, it's a security
Right.
if it follows the Howey rules.
Thank you for that. And our question from one of our viewers, asked, what are some different areas where artificial intelligence is used through blockchain technology? Is there a way to use that?
I have not seen applications yet with artificial intelligence.
Okay.
I believe that blockchain could lock, it basically validates it. So really blockchain is more of a way to secure transactions. Artificial intelligence is more of the analytics behind using data. I see more applications right now using drones, for example. So Walmart, for example, has they've applied for a patent where their drone delivery will be recorded using a blockchain. Or, for example, Walmart's using a blockchain to validate their delivery of goods and produce. And the big one right now in the industry, which my colleague from the Business Analytics Department, Dr. Abdullah Al-Bizri, and I are writing about, the trust chain. So in the gem industry, there's a huge issue with blood diamonds and fake diamonds. And using IoT, we feel it's a better validator for the blockchain transactions at the originating level,
Okay.
as opposed to using government officials.
So do you think that this will ever go to the point where traditional banking industry is embracing this technology, or do you think they're going to be replaced by it?
I think for some transactions, the banking industry will find a benefit. So for intra-banking transfers, foreign currency exchanges where there's a 2 or 3 day lag, this would be very beneficial. Where I see the big benefit will be in, for example, in mortgage underwriting. So some of the mortgages that happened in 2008 occurred because there wasn't documentation that was collected. If this was tied to a smart contract where the requirement would be to collect all these documents and verify the income and all the bills and the credit ratings and everything, then and it couldn't move forward unless that happened, 2008 may not have happened.
Okay.
So and that goes to the question of why it even happened to begin with, the Bitcoin paper from Nakamoto in 2008. There's some big questions about why this paper came out when it did.
Right. So this leads to the overall question that we're asking today. Why aren't more businesses adopting this technology like sooner rather than later?
Okay, I would say first is the lack of regulation, which we discussed already.
Right.
So businesses are risk adverse, and if I don't know whether my blockchain transaction is being regarded as a security or an asset or property, and I'm going to get sued for it or brought to court, I would have a problem with that as a business. Secondly, there's no user interface that's friendly to a user. So
Okay.
right now it's the domain of geeks, quote unquote.
Okay.
There isn't a software package that a business could upload and just write a smart contract or do blockchain transactions. So this is a big problem. And education. So it's a very black boxy type of application. So businesses aren't likely to trust their very sensitive applications to a process where they don't understand what's really going on.
All right. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We have another
Okay.
question from a viewer, which is exciting. They asked, "Do you believe Bitcoin will replace our current U.S. currency?"
No. And I say that with, caveat, which is that, basically maybe over time something like Bitcoin could take place.
Right.
But there are too many issues with the scalability over time, okay, and the power requirements over time. So yes, we could get rid of some of the power requirements, but then you get rid of some of the benefits and features of blockchain that make it desirable. I think that to be a large-scale currency is not applicable. It's not feasible.
So that's the questions that I have. But I
Okay.
have one last question for you.
Okay.
How do you feel personally about blockchain? Do you think it's overall positive, overall negative? Do you think we're going to go anywhere with it? Just your final thoughts on that.
I think that eventually the currency space, or in terms of like Bitcoin type blockchains and where it's been seen to be more like a security in terms of investments and almost like Ponzi scheme types of investments, I think that's going to die down over time. I see the great value in businesses, given we've addressed some of these issues I mentioned earlier, where processes such as contracts, mortgages, provenance chains of supply chain are addressed. But we still, researchers need to address some of the issues I mentioned earlier. These have to be resolved before businesses can actually adopt it. And that's how I feel about that personally.
Okay. We have another question
Okay.
from a viewer.
Okay.
So besides, we talked about how possibly in the future it could be hacked, all of the system. Are there any other disadvantages associated with adopting blockchain?
Well, a big one is that there's many components that you're not used to as a business that you have to deal with. So, being on a foreign, like an exchange platform, a third-party platform, you be on a cloud shared environment, which maybe you don't really control. You have different way of doing business, which may really change how you do business overall. So I think these are challenges to a business or anybody adopting blockchain in general.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And so that was our discussion on
Okay.
why aren't more businesses adopting blockchain technology. And I'd like to thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
stopping
you,
by
Luis.
today.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for watching. We'll be back next week for another Feliciano Live here at the Feliciano School of Business. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you very much.